Friends from the Road. You are now listening to the Friends from the Road podcast.
Gaining new friends along the journey. Sharing stories that inspire, encourage, and motivate.
Friends from the Road podcast. Now here's your host, Daniel Hurd.
Today I am at the campsite at the Ray Roberts Lake State Park in Pilot Point, Texas. It started out as a gloomy morning. The clouds kept rolling in, and today is supposed to be nearly 80 degrees. As I began to talk to today's guest, the sun is breaking through the clouds, and the breeze is coming and going. The other campers have begun their days, and the fishing boats have began patrolling the water since dawn. The birds are singing, and the toads are croaking. Today's guest is on a pretty powerful journey, and I'm excited for her to share since I got to meet her in Utah before my accident. Today she is here in person, enjoying some much-needed nature time. So please welcome Katherine Michelle to the show.
Yeah. Hi, Dan. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, I'm glad we got to have the opportunity. It's been a long time coming.
Right.
And it's even better to do it in person and to get to test out my new equipment.
Yeah, absolutely. Way better than sitting in some indoors.
Yeah, especially right now. It's nice to be outside, and it's peaceful to just hear the breeze and the wind and everything going on. But, I really want to, let's get this going. First thing I want to do, Kat, is tell us a little bit about who you are, the beginnings.
Who am I? I'm just envisioning Alice in Wonderland, caterpillar blowing smoke. Who are you?
Yes.
Well, my story begins in Dallas, Texas, where I was raised and lived the first 26 years of my life there. And that's about what I like to call my first life.
Okay.
And that's and what I mean by that is like the life that I was born into, kind of this prescription of the way that things are supposed to be lived, and not necessarily a life of your choosing, but like the path is college, career, 9 to 5, meeting a partner and having, 2.5 kids and the garage and white picket fence and, whatever else. At least that's how most people in my family did it. And for me, that felt really incredibly confining. It didn't feel natural, and I started actually getting really sick and had a lot of health problems with it. And, and then the guilt and shame that comes with knowing what everybody else wants for me and not wanting that at all, but feeling like I want that because they want it for me. Mm-hmm. That just felt like a prison cell, but without the physical bars. It was like all in my mind. And,
I can totally understand that freedom prison cell that you're in. You have freedom, but really you're trapped.
Right.
And I've dealt with that as well, so I understand that very well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. And, it created a lot of anxiety and a lot of depression. And the first, 23 years of my life, like from the time I can remember as a kid, I was depressed. I think I was like 7 the first time that I wrote in my diary, I wish I'd never been born. And I struggled with depression consistently, like on a daily basis, and suicidal thoughts every single day.
We don't have to get into too many details if you don't want to, but do you know nowadays? Do you know what were the causes of those thoughts and the wants to commit suicide? Or
the underlying theme is that I just felt like everything that I did was wrong. Like I couldn't figure it out, and I didn't know what I was doing wrong, but it just felt like everything I did was wrong. And it didn't matter how good my grades were, because I was a straight A student. It didn't matter how good I was at sports, because I was an athlete and did pretty well in everything that I did. That I just, I didn't feel loved, and I didn't feel cared for, and there was a lot of traumatic emotional things that happened. And I just didn't feel like I fit in at all in my family. Like I kind of thought I was adopted for a lot of my life.
I can understand that too. I've always thought I was switched at birth or something.
Yeah, that's what I thought
because,
too.
You know, in ways like I have similarities in my family, but at the same time, I don't feel like I look like them as much. I don't have I don't fit the molding that they're all in, I guess. So I understand that a lot as well.
Yeah, for me, it was actually realizing, oh, I look exactly like my dad and my brother. Like, there's no question. But I felt so completely different. So then when I realized, oh, wait, no, we all look exactly alike. This is my family.
So at 23 years old, what changed? What was the switch? What was the switch that went off?
So I had 3 attempts at suicide when I was 14, when I was 15, and when I was 22 and in college. And so after that, I had been seeing a psychologist when I was 22. And then after the attempt, I started on antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications and was back and forth. And they kept adding ones and taking them away. And, you know, this makes your depression better, but my anxiety was through the roof. And so we'll just add this one and we'll start taking this one at night. And there was just so many that I was, and we couldn't figure it out. And, you know, there was one time that whatever I was on made me stop thinking or feeling at all. And I was just a numb human being. And that was way worse than even, you know, the depression and suicidal thoughts, because I had no personality. I wasn't me.
I get that too. I hate, you know, I feel like medications have their purpose. But I don't think they're a fix. And unfortunately, I feel like a lot of times our society tries to turn those into fixes.
Yeah.
And really all it is a Band-Aid to cover up the stuff that we don't want to deal with.
Right. To help with the symptoms, but not the underlying causes.
Yeah. And so I was the same way. I appreciated them in my moments of need, but I tried to get off them as fast as I could. And, and you did it really fast, if I remember reading correctly. You did it fast. I
went cold turkey, and that is not recommended. I don't recommend that to anybody else. I didn't have any health problems with it, but it can create a lot of...
honestly, you were very fortunate, because it can be very, very bad. One of the times that I tried cold turkey one time, and one of my suicide attempts was involved from that.
Yeah.
So for people out there, just don't go quitting cold turkey, because it actually, a lot of times the medications that we take, especially antidepressants and antipsychotics, can actually trigger those depression states again, even harder, and ultimately suicide.
Right.
So
and starting and stopping.
Yes. So if you want to do transitions, for anybody listening to this, please consult your doctor. But so you did it cold turkey.
Yeah.
And,
for me, I just
very fortunate.
Yeah, very fortunate. And because I had realized that, like, I kept saying these futuristic statements like, I'll be happy when I leave college. I'll be happy when I get a job. I'll be happy when I make more money. I'll be happy when I get a better job. I'll be happy when I have a boyfriend. I'll be happy when I have a best friend. I'll be happy. I'll be happy. I'll be happy. And I realized that some of these things had come and gone. I had left. I had moved. I had gotten a job. And I kept saying, oh, well, I'll be happy when the next thing happens. And I realized that, like, I kept looking to these outside things to make me feel better about my own life.
But you weren't happy with yourself?
No.
And I feel like, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I feel like a lot of people were always looking externally for happiness. And I was the same way for a long time. And to be honest, I feel like a lot of the happiness that I've found in the last 3 years on a bicycle is because I've learned to be by myself. And you know, back in Florida when I was at the beginning of my journey, I felt alone. And I was meeting new people every day, but I literally felt alone because I wasn't at that stage where I truly loved myself yet, but I was working on it.
Yeah.
And by the time I left Florida, I had finally loved myself, which is crazy.
Yeah.
For 30 years, 29 years, however long it was, I couldn't see that as something possible. And still today, my mind, I'm not cured. It's not like it just went away forever. My mind still tries to tell me I'm not good enough or any of that, but my conscience tells me otherwise.
Right.
I'm thankful for that. So
yeah, definitely.
So what else was going on in your first life before everything else switched over?
I mean, the switch. So when I made the switch, it was a decision of, fuck this, I'm going to be happy now. And it's not that I didn't have the same depressive thoughts, because I did. The same, self-loathing and the same self-worth, and I'm not good enough, and I'm never going to be happy, and I'm never going to achieve, and all of those thoughts. But every time I had those thoughts, I would redirect. I would say, literally, is it all right if I cuss on this?
Yeah.
I would say, fuck this. I'm going to be happy now. And I would go do something. I would physically move my body. I would go work out. I would go for a walk. I would go read a book. And so I stopped smoking cigarettes. I stopped hanging out with the friends that all we did was drink together. I started going to church, not because I really fully believed, but because I wanted to meet different people other than being in bars. And I started playing sports again, and I just changed everything about my life because that wasn't who I wanted to be anymore. Okay. And I had also had a lot of health problems that had arisen from getting the full-time real 9-to-5 job that what I was encouraged to go towards. And my health was so bad. It was getting so bad. I couldn't eat food. I was having migraines all the time, on a weekly basis. And
oh, wow.
So that was along with this lifestyle change, and then realizing how much I wasn't feeling my own stress mentally, and my body was just taking it all on because I was refusing to acknowledge the stressors in my life that were causing stress, but I kept pushing down and pushing away and drinking away. So that was a big part of, those first 26 years was a lot of alcohol.
Yeah, I get that. But hey, so at 26 though, you were already making these changes. Things were starting to change up, but you were still in Dallas at that point.
Right. Yeah.
But what was it on your 26th birthday? Something changed.
Yeah.
What changed?
So I moved to Colorado. I had a girlfriend from college, and she had been living in Vail, and she said, "Hey, why don't you come to Vail? I'll get you a job as a ski instructor." And I said, "I don't know how to ski."
Really?
And she was like, "Don't worry about it." And so I said, okay. I knew I wanted something different, and I thought maybe it was just going to be for a season. And so I sold my apartment's worth of stuff, packed up my Jeep, and drove to Colorado to be a ski instructor, and I didn't know how to ski.
That's insane. Did they teach you how to ski at least before, or did you have to figure it out on your own?
I was learning how to ski as I was learning how to teach skiing. So I was teaching 3 to 6 year olds how to ski. So I figured as long as I was better than them, then they would know.
Yeah. Now, were the parents involved when you were doing these trainings sometimes?
No, not really.
Good.
At least not in the first season. I did have this one parent of the 3-year-old who booked a private lesson. It was my first private I had ever taught, and I was still learning how to ski myself, I'm like teaching a 3-year-old 3 hours of private ski lesson, which is a lot for a little 3-year-old. And the parents came back and they were like, so where'd you ski today? Like I was going to be like talking about like these blue runs that we went down and stuff. And I'm like, the bunny hill? Like, what did your kid can barely stand up. Like,
yep. Now, so you went and did your experience with skiing. How long did you do that for?
So I ended up ski instructing for 3 seasons. I was in Colorado for 4 winters, but 3 of those I was a ski instructor.
Okay. Were you a hiker at that point or no?
No.
No. Let's talk about that.
Okay.
Because I know that's the next thing that happened, right?
Yeah.
So you became a hiker with no experience.
Right.
What'd you hike?
Right. Not only a hiker, but a backpacker. For my first hike, I hiked the Appalachian Trail. And
did you through hike it on your first try?
It was an attempt at a through hike.
Okay.
But lo and behold, my body wasn't used to hiking. Weird, never having done it. So it took my body a lot longer to break into the backpacker lifestyle than I anticipated. So I ended up doing about 1,500 miles my first season. So that was like summer 2010.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you did 1,500 miles. That whole trail is 32, 33?
Almost 22.
22.
Yeah.
So you got pretty far.
Yeah, I did well over half.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up that you didn't finish, because there's a lot of people that watch people that do the Appalachian Trail through social media. And in general, we see it pretty much everywhere nowadays. It's, the AT has become semi-mainstream, I guess.
Yeah,
and,
totally.
A lot of times we see people showing all the good things and the not struggles of doing those huge tasks and journeys. I unfortunately lost a friend to suicide because of, someone. He was struggling already, unfortunately, and he was looking for a way to find a way out. And,
yeah.
For him, he was watching people doing the Appalachian Trails, and he was like, these guys can do it, I can do it.
Right.
And he did it for just under 2 months, and he made it probably about half the distance that you did. And unfortunately, he felt like a failure, and he ended up actually committing suicide, leaving a note for that. But, we're not professionals off the first try.
Right.
It takes time. It takes days and years and months
of experience that only comes from doing it.
Yeah. So
I'm so sorry that your friend
felt
that, and I understand it, because that's how I was my first summer out there doing it. Is I had so much pressure, and there was only one way to hike, and a white blazer that goes by every single white blaze on the Appalachian Trail, skips no parts, no sections, only goes northbound or only goes southbound, and so I had all these like strict ideas about what it was to hike the trail. And I also, after talking about like depression and not being okay with yourself, is that like I didn't start it solo. I didn't start it as a solo journey. I started with a friend.
Okay.
And he and I hiked together like the first month, and then I hiked with another group for a few weeks after that, and then all of them quit. And then I was by myself, and that's not what I had planned, and had gotten really depressed.
So, but you didn't give up. You kept going, even though you were all by yourself and dealing with depression and everything. But
the interesting thing is, so the same day that my friend and I decided to stop hiking together is the same day that I found my dog that hiked with me the rest of the trail.
Okay.
Thank God. He was amazing. His name was Springer, after the first mountain on the Appalachian Trail. And So along the trail, there's poison ivy and poison oak everywhere. And I had never gotten it. Even having the dog running around in it, me walking in it, all this stuff, I got really depressed and my immune system dropped. And all of a sudden, I broke out in the worst poison ivy that was just like oozing. Like it was so bad. I saw 2 different doctors about it. But it was just so interesting how, like, I knew that my immune system dropped because of my depression.
It's crazy how, the energy that we push out of ourselves, positive or negative,
Right.
has such an impact on our physical being as well.
Yeah.
And I can totally say that because I think I healed as fast as I did because of my positive attitude from my accident. So now if my brain would catch up so I don't have to write everything down and have these brain farts that I have. So
We're not experts the first time, it takes time.
and I'm getting better every day.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's definitely a work in progress. But so after the AT, how many times did you end up finishing?
I did finish. Yeah.
How many times did it take you to get to do a through hike?
To finish the whole thing, it was 3 times total.
Okay.
So the first time I did 1,500 miles.
Third
the second
time's a charm.
Because I learned from the first time when I was so strict about it, and I didn't have that much fun. Like, I was like punishing myself, like torturing myself for this thing that I had chosen to do. And I was so hard on myself about, I need to make more miles and I need to be doing better and I should be doing more. And how many people along the way told me, you're never going to make it. You're never going to make it. God.
Were these other hikers saying this to you, or people that you knew?
Both. Other hikers, people who had through hiked, people in hiker towns that had seen hikers come and go and, just thought they knew everything about everything and personalities and strengths and blah, blah, blah. And I got a lot of shit for being a solo female through hiker. And, for a while, it aided my depression. And then after a while, it was like, fuck you.
Right?
It added fuel to the fire of like, I am going to finish. And so
I totally get that. I actually live my life by that, including, unfortunately, like I said, my mind, like a lot of people, our minds are our biggest critics usually. We'll tell ourselves we can't do something before we actually try it. And other people will tell us we can do it, but we won't do it because our mind says we can't.
Right.
And so when I've come to program myself that when my mind says I can't do it, it just means I have to do it. I have to go try it even more.
Yeah.
And same thing with like the bike journey. A lot of people didn't think I was going to be able to do it. And lo and behold, even after getting hit by a car, I'm still doing it.
Yeah. So does that work for you with, like, if you see that you're afraid of something, is it kind of like a self-challenge?
Yeah. So I'm afraid of heights. And a lot of times I don't even say I'm afraid of heights. I'm actually afraid of falling.
Right.
But
good distinction.
It's, I'll probably never go bungee jumping. That's a little crazy for me, but I've always wanted to go skydiving and stuff. So I'm trying to find ways to overcome it. I've gone cliff jumping.
Yeah.
So like free fall. And so it's still, I'm afraid even after doing all that, but it's things that I am always looking to try to better myself.
Right.
So yeah, it's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
But I know going on to the next thing, you were going to better yourself, and you ended up going to Florida, I think it was, right? And doing a job that, again, you had no experience in, I think it was.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So Colorado, ski instructor, didn't know how to ski. one summer I got a job as a ATV tour guide. I'd never been on an ATV before.
And you did that
in Colorado.
The ATV?
The ATV, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, one summer. After I did, so 2010, did the Appalachian Trail all summer. 2011, first part of the summer, I did ATV tours.
Okay.
And then did a little bit more of the Appalachian Trail on the second half of that summer. And then...
That's what it was. In Florida, you became a sailor.
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
Yes, I got tired of the snow and the cold and wanted to live in a bathing suit. So I moved to Florida and got a job on a sailboat as a mate and an eco tour guide. I'd only kayaked once and I didn't know how to sail. And got a job on a sailboat leading eco tours, snorkeling and kayaking.
How was that? That must have been fun, especially in Key West.
Oh, gosh. It was an amazing job. It was one of the most difficult learning experiences that I had ever had in my life, because not only it's like, bartending and serving, because we served food and drinks, but then also all of the boat things, like raising all the sails and all the anchors were by hand. Okay. So gaining the strength there are 65-foot sailboats with very large sails and 70-pound anchors, and being able to do that solo, as well as like teaching everyone, keeping everyone safe, and then teaching everyone about all of the birds that we're seeing, and all the sharks and the seagrass and the coral and the fish and the mangroves and literally everything that we're seeing. They gave us a list. Here's the things that you need to go learn about. It wasn't like a book that you like, here's all the information you need to know. It was like, you need to do your own research, like figure it out and find the facts that you think are interesting and talk about it. And so it was also public speaking. You're on a boat with 20 people having to teach them how to snorkel, like how to put a mask on, how to kayak. And then we would give speeches. We called it the chart talk. And we would pull out the map or the chart, because it's on the water, and point out where we're going and how the first industries of Key West and how the Keys were formed. And for me, I had not done anything like that since college, like it had been a while. And the first chart talk I did was really low. I could barely say anything. I said 32 times. I know because my captain counted.
Yeah.
And so it was it was a few months of just feeling like a failure, like every day, because there was always something that you were forgetting and something that you needed to be better about or plan for. And then everything clicked, and it was such an empowering job.
I could imagine. I was in the Navy, so I get the being on the boat thing.
Yeah.
Not a sailboat, but a boat, and I'm just thinking the work that goes into it. But up to that point, you were doing stuff just in the United States, right?
Yes. Yeah, just in the United States. And honestly, so I had I knew that I wanted to finish the Appalachian Trail, and I kind of feel like, so 2015, I had moved to Key West in 2013. In 2015, I was feeling the call that it was time to move on, and I knew that I couldn't fully move on because I hadn't finished the goal that I had set for myself. So I went and I finished the Appalachian Trail, and at that point, I felt like, the rest of the world kind of opened up, and I decided to move overseas instead of staying stateside.
So where'd you go?
The first place that I moved to was Bali in Indonesia.
Okay. Yeah. How long were you there for?
I was there 6 months.
Nice.
I was teaching yoga. I had done a yoga teacher training when I was in Key West. So I was teaching yoga and meditation. I was running women's circles and managing the yoga teachers at a retreat center in Uluwatu in Bali.
Wow. Well, so you did some crazy stuff. After Bali, I'm sure you've done quite a few other things, but there's one thing I definitely want to talk about because I don't know many people that have gone to this continent, and so let's talk about Antarctica.
All right, yeah. So I got a job in Antarctica working on McMurdo Station, which is the largest base in Antarctica. It's so to get to Antarctica, you can either go from the South American side or the New Zealand side. And we flew through New Zealand. So you fly it was a direct flight from Dallas to Auckland, which is one of the longest flights in the world. I think it's like 15, 16 hours. And I think the longest flight is 17 hours.
Wow. So what else?
So Auckland to Christchurch, and then Christchurch, we flew on a C-17, a very large cargo plane, down to the ice, is what we call it, the ice. And I was a steward of food services, which I was basically a
line cook,
dishwasher.
The other name sounded way better.
Yeah. I mean, we made sure that the food was out because you're feeding 800 people. So it's like, a big production.
Yeah.
Keeping food on the line and making sure all the dishes are washed in between. And so that was the longest and hardest hiring process that I've ever been through in my life, because there's so many health checks and doctor's visits and dental stuff, because it's so far and it's so remote that they don't want the possibility that something could happen. And so it was a long process to get physically qualified to get down there. And then my stay ended up being quite a bit shorter than I was anticipating.
Okay.
And
what happened? What happened? What's going on?
It was a small health scare that wasn't at all, actually, but
because of the precautions that they have in place,
yeah,
it was just a safety hazard.
Yep, exactly. Okay. And so I left pretty quickly. I found out on a Thursday that I was no longer considered physically qualified to be there, and I left on Saturday. Wow. So it had been a long process of planning, and it was like 6 months in the making of me getting down there and all the preparations and stuff. And so I was flown back to New Zealand, and honestly, that was a really amazing experience because I realized how quickly life can change, how, not to hold on too tight to these ideas that we create for ourselves, because just like that, it was gone.
Well, yeah, all that planning.
Yeah.
It's important to have plans, but loose plans for future. All we have is today. So
yeah, and I was so disappointed at first, and then I was in New Zealand, and I had so many incredible, amazing things happen in New Zealand, and I just decided that I wasn't going to make any plans. I was going to let my intuition lead me wherever I was going, and I hitchhiked the entire time. I was in New Zealand for 6 months. I hitchhiked the whole way, thousands of miles, or kilometers.
Yeah, depending how you want to say it. Either way, it equals 1,000 of something.
Yeah. And ended up meeting amazing people, having incredible synchronistic experiences, and learning so much about myself. And that's really where my self-love fully came into play, because I was still struggling and fighting with myself. I had done a lot to learn about myself and to love myself and my body and the way I looked and everything about myself before that. But that's really where I let go and allowed and really got to see and experience myself in a different way as well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it's it's great when that actually happens, and I think it's crazy that it happened while you're hitchhiking a different country where you don't know anybody, and a lot of people would say you're insane to do it, regardless of your gender. But to do it as a woman, a lot of people would say is impossible.
Right.
And so it's amazing that you are the possible, and to show people that,
Yeah.
Obviously, regardless of your sex, you should be cautious and aware of what's going on around you, but you shouldn't allow it to limit you from not or being able to do things. And,
Yeah.
And that was one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to make sure I had you on, was to share all these amazing stories that you've done, either solo or with an animal companion, it sounds like, for the most part. And occasionally people, that happens. But for the most part, your story has been winding and weaving on a solo traveling journey for 11 years now.
Yeah.
And I think that's amazing. But what I want to do is I want to go, before we get too much into it, I want to get into the depths of how your feelings and everything were. But before we do, let's take a quick break.
All right. Sounds good.
There has never been a better time to make a difference and save lives from suicide than now with Livingworks Education. With over 2 million people trained to save lives from suicide in over 30 countries, estimates show that Livingworks training has prevented over 300,000 suicide attempts. Rather than just training, Livingworks provides a solution and roadmap that communities and organizations can follow to save lives. We all can get started somewhere, and that's why I suggest getting started at start.opaatmovement.com. Let's make suicide safe for communities by bringing us closer to a world where living works for everyone. Can't afford it? OPAT Movement wants to help. Email opaatm@gmail.com. Subject line, start help. Living does work. Now, back to the episode. So after an extended break, we're back. Extended break was because we needed to move campsites for the day and ended up getting some lunch, and just kind of hanging out with some of the campers around the area and getting to have some conversations and hopefully some more episodes through them as well. So before the break, Kat, we were talking about some of the great adventures you've done. Some of them with no experience, others with just figuring it out as you go, and some changing last minute. And it seemed like a lot of them, from my perspective at least, and maybe everybody else will agree, is you seem to do it without fear. And that was pretty impressive.
Well, funny you should say that. I definitely want to be absolutely clear that it wasn't the absence of fear that allowed me to do these things. I was definitely scared sometimes, and sometimes a lot of the time. And more so than these things was learning to love myself and accept myself and my own physical body, my mind, my soul, and the lengths that I went to become comfortable with all the pieces of myself. It wasn't a lack of fear, but a decision to not let that fear control me or stop me from doing something that was calling me, or to step away from the people who were making me feel crazy for wanting something different. And there has been a lot of that.
Well, we I don't care what anybody says. We have to be some type of crazy. We're all a little crazy, all right? Ones that are willing to step out of the normal figure are definitely crazy. We're crazy to go enjoy and live life. And that's what you're doing.
Right.
And, you've done a lot of stuff over the last 11, coming on 12 years of your life, and experiencing a lot of things. But what is some good advice that you would give to a traveler of any type that is just starting out, that or is thinking about becoming a traveler?
Oh man, there's so many things I could talk about. And sometimes it's hard to talk about the true life of a traveler because people want to believe that if you move somewhere beautiful and tropical and amazing, that everything will be perfect and you'll live happily ever after. And it's only the location of the place that is keeping you or stopping you from living your perfect life. And that has absolutely not been my experience at all. And it's not the story that I try and share because it's not been true for me. Like, there's been so many hard times. And so, I mean, so lonesome and gut-wrenching and lonely, soulless, and then soulful and beautiful and amazing and connective and authentic and supportive in so many unforeseen ways. So the lessons that I've learned through these hardships, through some of the things that have happened, has really been down to like a cellular level. Like, it's like deeply ingrained in me, something that like you can't learn from reading about. You can't learn from hearing someone else's story, and it has allowed me to make lasting change. So, I'd say to somebody starting out to know that shit's gonna happen.
You're gonna have tough times.
Yeah.
But you're gonna have great times too. Yes.
Yeah. And, we've all heard the saying, everywhere I go, there I am. And it's the same if we have a lifestyle that's stressful where we are right now, today, in this moment, we're going to bring that with us wherever we go. So, like, knowing that going into it, that like life isn't suddenly, we're not going to arrive somewhere and suddenly arrive at like this happiness that in fairy tales and in movies.
So you're telling me that unless you take care of things that you have going on, you can't find your best destination? Have you found your favorite destination yet?
I have. Yeah. My favorite destination, the best one that I have found, is me. Is coming back to myself. Is really understanding how to be loving and compassionate and strong and how worthy I am. And I was the only one who could lead me there. Nobody else could, even through like different teachers and different modalities and all the different ways and gurus and shamans and people that I've worked with over the years. None of them could make me love myself. It was an inside job and I had to. And each place that I went grew confidence that is unshakable. If I know going into anything that I am capable mentally and physically of whatever it is that if I put my mind to it. And that is a type of confidence that, there's not a question like, oh, can I do this? Oh, it's like, do I want to do that? And so that comes from trying things and from failing and then getting up and trying again. And it's one of the things that I really enjoy talking about. So it's really working through the fears and working through the uncomfortable situations and the social awkwardness and the insecurity. And it's not a decision that happens once and lasts forever. It's a billion tiny decisions every day, but it's only one decision at a time. And that's been a key component to simplifying the process. And then the other thing is that I live life like a science experiment. So just because something doesn't work one time doesn't mean that it's not worth trying it again or maybe coming at it from a different angle, but that there really is no such thing as failure, only abundant learning opportunities.
Yeah, so what about like, I love that there's always something to learn, but, a lot of people like to try to come out with this, if I can do it, you can do it. And I know that is something that you are not about. You don't like to tell people that, oh, if I can do it, you can do it. So what is, if you had a mission, in a sense, which we all have a mission, regardless if it's for an official reason or not, there's always a mission. So what's your mission for today's conversation for people?
My mission is to plant the seed of maybe. My goal is to creak open the door of possibly, and to warmly and lovingly invite you and all the listeners to start thinking of a life that feels authentically and unabashedly like you. And one of the things that I've had to learn the hard way is to go to people who will help support me in my mission. Like, you know, if I make a goal to go to Antarctica, to go to New Zealand, to go do these travels, there's a lot of people who will immediately tell you why you can't and why you shouldn't and how it's irresponsible. And so if I can offer a suggestion, it's to not talk to those people. Go to people that will support you with what you want to do because you want to do it.
But, sometimes that's hard to do. Sometimes our environments don't provide us with those positive people. Do you have any advice for those people that may not have that light immediately available to them to maybe use that negative energy as a positive?
I mean, in the very beginning, it's really disconcerting. Like, I can tell you from personal experience about everything that I've wanted to do and, excited about it and wanting to share it with the people that I'm close to and the people that are supposed to love me the most, to be immediately kind of slapped in the face with why you can't and why you shouldn't and how you're irresponsible for wanting this. And so, for me personally, it eventually has become fuel. Like, how many people told me I would never finish the Appalachian Trail? You're never going to make it. You're never going to make it. You're never going to make it. How many miles, hundreds of miles, I heard people say it.
Yeah, but with that being said, you could have easily fallen into allowing them to let you believe that you would never make it.
Right.
And regardless of how many times it took, third time's a charm. You did it.
Yeah.
And I feel like for a lot of people, I want to make sure people understand that it doesn't have to be about getting it done the first time. You don't have to be the best at it immediately or ever. But as long as you do your best and you just be yourself and enjoy it. And if you're not enjoying it, then you're doing it wrong. Is that a good way to put it?
Yes, yeah, totally.
And something else that I've found from travelers and immediately meeting you when we met in Utah, is people that are connecting to themselves and moving on with things are very authentic and genuine people. In a lot of ways, I feel like we're almost transparent in certain aspects, but in a different way. Whereas as we're transparent, a lot of people would look at us as giving up our vulnerability. And for a long time, I would agree with those people, and I hope that they are listening. Sharing our history, sharing things that we've gone through, whether that's through travels or experiences or traumas or anything. It's important to express those emotions, those experiences, those thoughts, and whatever word you want to use for that, because I think it's important for people to understand that in reality it's making us stronger. And I think a lot of people that are traveling that have given themselves time to appreciate themselves, which is what happens when you do solo traveling. We find out that there's still a lot of stuff that can be done, but at the same time we let go of these society fears of being able to express ourselves. Do you agree with that? Does that make...
Yeah, absolutely. Where it's almost like not expressing, knowing the healing aspects of expressing whatever it is, feelings, emotions, situations, trauma, that not expressing feels inauthentic, you know? So because so many people go through so many similar things and are so scared to talk about it because society has said not to, and the stigma is attached to depression, suicide, trauma, sexual abuse, abusive relationships. And so instead we stuff everything down, and it just compounds and creates so much dis-ease in the body and in the mind. And so, for me, especially being a solo traveler and understanding how much I express verbally, other ways of expression are through dancing, yoga, movement, writing, singing, even if it's not like a song of mine, but like just singing out loud to move that energy. It's all been really, really helpful. And now as a solo traveler, when I'm somewhere and I have an emotion or something that happens and I'm scared, I'll share it with somebody who's near me. I'll say, hey, do you mind if I express something to you that I just experienced so that I can ease my own process? And, give them the option if they're available for it or not. But, I've found that it's been a really great way to meet people, and that to come through that with that authenticity and that genuine, this just happened and I'm scared, and how much connection that's created, as well as like freeing myself because now I've shared it, I've expressed it. And so that's been a huge part of the journey.
I think what is amazing about your journey, I think a home run happened next door at our campsite. If you guys heard that, either that or a beer foul, one or the other. But something that I think is amazing, and I hope you can give some knowledge up, is like I said, and like we've said many times, you've been doing this for 11 years, going on 12, and sure, there's a lot of other women that have done this as well, but there's still a lot of women that don't do this out of fear of doing things, unfortunately, by themselves. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. What advice can you give the listeners that are women that are maybe thinking about doing some solo adventures? So maybe one of the other listeners that knows somebody that could potentially be good for solo adventuring as a woman, that can pass this knowledge on. What do you have to share for them?
Yeah, for those who are just starting out and have an interest and want to, undertake some journeys solo, I would say to seek other women who are doing it, who are doing what it is that you want to do. When I decided that I was going to hike the Appalachian Trail, I went to REI in Denver, and I walked around with a backpack for an hour with 35 pounds in it. I tried on shoes with it to make sure that the pack fit okay. And I met a woman there who had hiked the Appalachian Trail, and she was super nice, and she gave me her email address, and we emailed back and forth so that I could ask questions, and she had answers because she had experience doing it. Mm-hmm. So whether that's like Instagram or someone in just Google, or going to a gear store like REI or any of the other hotspots for it, that you start to get into the lifestyle so you know what you're getting into ahead of time. Because the more knowledge that you have about what it is that you're doing, the more confidence that you'll already feel when you start. reading other people's experiences with it, seeking books and knowledge, and like I said, share it with somebody who's going to be excited about this for you and with you. And if there are people who immediately say, oh, that's stupid, you're never going to make it, that's dumb, you shouldn't do that, what will your parents think, what's your money situation, all of the concerns, to go, okay, that's their fears talking. That's their fears. Those aren't my fears. And you don't have to take it on. They're not yours. If there's something that you're excited about, don't let other people's fear stop you from doing it.
Yeah, and don't let it become your own fear.
Right.
Yes. I love that. And again, I'm thankful that I was able to get you on and share your journeys as a perspective as a woman and as a person in general, because you've done some pretty amazing things, and it's been great to learn about them myself as well. But you brought up social media and stuff like that. How can people follow you? What information can you share with that? And do you have any? You have what? You have an Instagram, right? What's your Instagram? Let's start with that.
Yeah, my Instagram is Be More You. Instead of spaces, it's BE.MORE.YOU.
Okay. And that'll be in the comments as well, guys. But you also have a Facebook group.
Right.
What's your Facebook group?
Yeah, so the Facebook group that I'm just getting going is called The Pretty Powerful Life. And the purpose of this group is to provide a safe space for myself and others to show up completely as we are, to talk about all things human and every aspect that goes with this human experience, which is, the light and the cheery and the confused and the angry and the hurt and the injured and the absurd and the hilarious and all things in between. It does come with a trigger warning.
Of course.
For all people who are wanting to develop more authentic, intimate, supportive, vulnerable, and platonic connections with yourself and with others. So this group is for people who crave understanding and for people who want to know everything possible about the human experience, for people who are ready to heal mentally, emotionally, and physically, and for those who are ready to face themselves, face their fears, and, cheer on others as we walk together towards our own highest selves. And
I love that.
The most important aspect is that healing is not a spectator sport. Your active participation is required.
Yeah, no, it is. And, I love that you have this group going on. It reminds me of my group. I have the One Pedal at a Time movement group and nonprofit. But we'll definitely have to share your page on the One Pedal at a Time movement group as well, so more people can see it.
Yeah.
Is there anything else I know you have a blogging.
Yeah.
You're doing that as well, right? Well,
a couple of things. The blog is called thePrettyPowerfulLife.wordpress.com.
Okay.
I will be writing more for that as I've been getting myself more settled. And then I also wanted to let people know that if you are interested in, one-on-one coaching, that I am working with survivors of abuse to create healthy boundaries and reclaim their sexuality to live fully empowered lives. And also, an aspect of that is turning solo travel into soul travel. And, the plan moving forward is to create some retreats where we can practice and experience both soul travel, healing work on ourselves, and solo travel to be able to create a healthy environment for you to go have your own experience and be able to share about that experience with people that you know and love and trust. So exciting things coming up.
Very exciting stuff. Kat, it's been, I think we're pretty much done for this. It's been amazing having you on. It's been great hanging out camping.
Yeah.
And hanging out with little Clarence here. Little Clarence is a 4-month-old terrier.
Yeah, Jack Russell
Terrier. So he's been very nice and calm while we've been doing this episode. And before we finish, is there anything else that you would like to say directly to the listeners?
Nope.
All right.
I think I've said a lot.
Yeah, you have.
And I appreciate you having me on. This has been so much fun catching up and getting to spend time with you out in nature and getting to see your whole new setup.
It's been great. And again, I'm looking forward to keeping in touch and taking it one petal at a time and one story at a time.
All right.
Copyright OPAT Movement 2021.